Hi, happy holidays, everyone. My name is Stephanie Arell, and I'm going to talk to you today about the concept of hyperarousal and hypoarousal, but specifically in relationship to immersing ourselves in activities related to the holidays that require that we be around a lot of people, or alternatively, that we are not around a lot of people and end up feeling less than our usual amazing selves when we look around and feel a sense of loss. In general, we receive messaging that we somehow should be around people around the holidays, and that if we're not around people, there's something less than ideal about our lives. And others of us don't have the family structures where we either want or have the capacity to be around family members. Now, I don't specifically want to look at or consider today that enigma or difficulty. I want to put it out there, but what I want to offer you is ways to measure your feeling okay about your given situation, no matter what it is. So if you like to be alone, or you like to withdraw a little more around the holidays, or you really want to be around people during holidays. So how to measure when it's really your own estimation and your truth in that experience, or whether it's external stimuli that's conveying a message to you about what you should be doing. And every time I say the word should, I'd like you to think, do you want to should on yourself? Don't use the word should. Forget about it. Get it out of your life. When people tell you that you should do something or you need to do something, think about what they're trying to tell themselves, or think about what their agenda is that may not have anything to do with you. So when we think about what we should or should not be doing on the holidays, that is generally created. Now, how can we get to our truth, to our internal authentic needs around the holidays? And I want you to think about measuring that in terms of what we call hypoarousal and hyperarousal. This is not mine. There are a lot of people that work on the theory of arousal and what is called regulation, which I have talked about before, but there are some visuals that we can use. You can find many on the internet. I have one that I created. Basically, you have three different categories. Hyperarousal, the window of tolerance, which is your regulation or the homeostasis that we'd all like to achieve. If you want to put feeling words to it, maybe you could say happiness or contentment. And then hypoarousal. One of the reasons why I like thinking about this chart is that when people make recommendations about what you should be doing to feel healthy or good in the world, it's like, go meditate, or maybe you should journal write, or maybe take a run. And my theory is those things are all great, but it really depends where you are in the window, what activity would be the most beneficial to you at any given time. So if you're really depressed, meditating by yourself on your couch might lead to direct sleepiness, or you're sleeping actually. You may need the sleep, but in other ways, that activity may actually reinforce the hypoarousal. So hypo is under. If you're hyperaroused, meditating is probably really good for you to calm down your nervous system. If you're hyperaroused, running may actually increase that arousal, or getting a nice latte or coffee is going to increase that arousal. Whereas hypoaroused people might need to get out there and exercise, or exercising a lot would be helpful. So all of those things can be positive, negative, good, bad, depending on what the situation is. So let's get a little bit more simple in terms of thinking about this holiday season and being around people, and what it means to say hyperarousal or hypoarousal in relationship to these situations we might find ourselves in. If you make a decision to stay home on a holiday, and that physical experience of that choice leaves you in the window of tolerance, bravo, bravo. That is a good indicator to you that that decision is a good one. I think you can apply that to almost any exchange you have with others over the season, or any experience you have. If you're left in the window of tolerance, you're doing pretty good. If you find yourself in hyperarousal or hypoarousal, then there's some work that needs to be done to get back into that window of tolerance. So let's think of an example. If there's a particular family member that just increases your irritability, increases your anxiety, leaves you kind of doubting yourself or being confused, then you're likely moving into hyperarousal. Alternatively, you may want to withdraw and feel depressed. That would be hypoarousal. But let's stick with the analogy or the anecdote that someone sets you off and leaves you feeling irritable or anxious. There are things that you can do to create or get yourself back into the window of tolerance. It may be it's time to go take a walk. It may be there's a friend that you want to call that brings you back to the present reality, that calms your system down a little bit. It may mean you want to go take a nap, right? You need to go upstairs if you're at your family home, for instance, and it's just like, I need to rest for a minute and calm my system down. The goal always is to get back into that window of tolerance. Now, hypoarousal, personally, it's a little bit more difficult for me because my personality is definitely hyperarousal. So I would be anxious. If I get triggered by anything, I move into this anxious realm. Very few times in my life have I ever felt the feeling of feeling depressed or really withdrawn. Once in a while, and for me, if I have that experience, I really know that being around people, and it actually doesn't even matter who or where, that I feel stimulated. So I can move into a window of tolerance if I'm alone too much or if I'm feeling sad by exposing myself to others. And really, it doesn't matter. I could go walk around a mall and then all of a sudden I have a sense of regulation because I'm seeing other people enjoying their day. And that may work for you on the holidays. If you're feeling as if someone didn't invite you to a party or you feel a little alone, simply exposing yourself to others, go have a drink at a bar if you're old enough, or go out and take a walk where there's other people. Go do some shopping. Window shopping is fine, just to see other people and move yourself into the window of tolerance. I also want to put this in a framework of thinking about people we love. So we all love lots of different people, and some of those people, regardless of how much we love them, might be triggers, or when we're stressed out, being around them might increase our stress level. So I think it's fair to understand that you may have a lot of love for people and your exposure to them might have to be selective. And so during COVID, I did a workshop with a group of people online related to who to call when. There may be people in your life when you feel a little depressed that calling them just snaps you out of it. There may be other people that kind of like to sit in the muck with you that kind of increase that level of hypoarousal. And I think it's fair to think, who do I need when? And contrarily, you can also think about, what can I give when? What does somebody need if they're hyperaroused or hypoaroused? What can I offer someone else? So you can take this and put it in your own little index for yourself in your own entrance into the window of tolerance. Or you can take a look at your friends and other people in your lives and be able to identify maybe what they need a little bit. If somebody calls you and feels a little depressed, maybe the question is, how do we get you a little more aroused? How do we move you into the window of tolerance? What can I do? Do we listen to some great music together? Do I suggest my playlist that's my workout music? Do you want to go take a walk? All of those things would move somebody closer to the window of tolerance if they're feeling down. Now, I know I presented this idea of what we do for ourselves to get ourselves in the window of tolerance and then what we can give others. There are also maybe times where we really do have to focus on ourselves, and we all have limitations at different parts of our lives or different things going on. I have a friend right now whose dad is really sick, and the holidays are going to be a struggle, and her ability to offer something to somebody else is going to be limited. And so that's totally okay if you find yourself in a space where giving to others or identifying others' needs is not in your capacity. Then it's really even more important for consideration about where you fall on the window, and maybe what aspects, even little things that you can do that get you closer to the window. So my friend whose dad is sick, what little things can she do while she's at the hospital to increase her ability to stay in the window of tolerance? What can she do to take care of herself that's going to keep her calm, right? So outside of hyperarousal, if that's where she finds herself at any given moment, maybe it's reading about what he's going through. Maybe it's reading herself by herself off in a corner. Maybe it's reading to her dad. Any activity, though, the measure of it is not what we should do, but rather how does it keep us in this regulatory mode, for instance, right? How do we stay out of hyperarousal? How do we stay out of hypoarousal and really give our bodies the rest that it needs and the stimulus that it needs to stay in the window of tolerance? Hyperarousal and hypoarousal gets a little tricky when we're dealing with others also. I think this is one of the toughest things, at least for me, and I think for other people that I know too, about communicating to others our limitations, or even understanding our limitations in terms of being available to other people. And when we draw those limitations or boundaries, the sense or possibility of sensations of guilt or even frustration, or maybe added hyperarousal because we can't be available to others in the way that we wish we could. So how do we draw boundaries when we feel hyper aroused or when we feel like we're maxed out and can't give anybody else anything else? It's really tricky. I will say a couple of things about doing it that might help alleviate any kind of negative emotions once you are confronted with such experiences. Creating boundaries and taking care of ourselves increases our capacity to be available when we are available. Creating boundaries also enables us to be our best selves, and not only allows us within the window of tolerance, but it allows us to just do better in the world for ourselves, for other people, for the people who need us. So it's really an important quality. I think a first step is starting to think about mechanisms that people can use or that you can use that help you draw boundaries. So for some of you, that might be turning off your phone. It also might be deciding from 3 to 4 each day you're available, but the rest of the time you're not, or on any given day, right? Or maybe it means the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning is say hi to a bunch of people, and then you're off for 3 hours. Like any kind of activity where you can set small boundaries that give you time to address your own personal needs, for instance, in relationship to the window of tolerance. Now, if somebody calls you and is actually soliciting something from you, there's ways of communicating that you're not available, or maybe I can get to that in 3 days, but I can't help you with that right now. Or maybe it's even thinking about what you can help direct them to. I can't deal with this right now, or I have this thing going on, so I have to address that first. Maybe using this as a resource would be helpful to you. So perhaps it's about trying to think of ways that you can use referrals. Any little thing that you can do that creates a protection around you would be helpful. And I'll use a little bit of an anecdote. Besides teaching college, I work with people who have physical injuries, some of which are pretty massive. When I first started doing this, it was very overwhelming to be around people who had a lot of physical pain. I would do it for almost 12 hours at a time. So I would get pretty tired of people's needing something from me. And one of the devices that I developed, that I learned actually from a yoga instructor, was imagining myself in a pyramid. So I was at the center of this pyramid that was reflecting all the way around me. And any input that was being given to me would be reflected out. And over time, just that imaginative exercise of being in this sort of protective space that also was reflective. So it wasn't that I wasn't present to others, but I was reflecting what they were giving to me instead of taking it into myself. And a lot of that had to do with pain. That simple imaginative exercise over time enabled me to do that automatically. So now I don't even think about it. But when I'm around people for a long amount of time who need me, my students, my clients, I just immediately have some distance between what their need is and what my need is and what I'm doing in terms of what I have to do thinking wise, like performing cognitively when I'm teaching, for instance. I think what that illustrates for you is that by developing exercises, little things that you can do to create boundaries, that those exercises will over time be cumulative and help you regulate or take care of yourself. I will have to say honestly though, when I'm very stressed, it's very hard to maintain that distance. And so I have to check myself. And the ways in which I do that are really by changing my stimulus. One of the easiest things for me to do that allows this kind of change from anxiety about giving others, one of the easiest switches is if I listen to French music. I love French and I speak French. And when I listen to French music, I would say the same happens when I listen to Italian music and even Spanish music, but a little less so because I have French in my life and have studied French for a very long time. What happens is the neurological processing of the foreign language is different than the way I process in English. So if I switch my brain to the French, I'm not in the same emotional experience at all as I am when I'm in English. Some of you who are bilingual may understand that. Another way to describe it is this. If you have a past memory related to a certain song and you listen to that song, you can be pretty quickly transposed into that past memory. So that is not what you want to do if that memory is depressing and you're hypo-aroused. So you can think about it that way. What kind of music could I listen to right now that's going to move me out of this memory circuit or this hypoarousal or this sense of guilt for not giving somebody some part of my energy into this better functioning, higher boundaried and regulated person? So what kind of music will help that? Like I just said, French music helps me, but that's just one question or one way to explore how to change your mindset and to maybe alleviate some of the pressure that you feel in relationship to what you should be giving other people.